Good evening. I would like to call the January 13th regularly scheduled board meeting to order and ask that you join with me in a moment of silence. Thank you. And now would you please rise and join in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now we'll have Director Cox read our mission statement.
Waterloo schools will set the standard for urban education by ensuring that every student is given the comprehensive support and diverse experiences needed to graduate with diploma and a plan.
Thank you, Director Cox. The next item on our agenda is information from individuals and delegations. This is the opportunity where those who wish to address the school board may do so. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Mrs. Arndorfer will hold up a yellow card when you have 30 seconds remaining and a red card when your time has expired. At that time, I will ask you to conclude your public remarks. Please also keep your comments respectful and constructive. We're all here with the goal of trying to help our students. Please also avoid criticizing the job performance of specific employees of the school district. Personnel matters are confidential and must be handled through the proper channels and not in a public forum. Finally, we provide this as an opportunity for public comments, but it is not generally a back and forth discussion, especially for items not on the agenda. At times, we'll try with information before or after the meeting, but we have to proceed with our board meeting agenda items. With that being said, I invite anyone who wishes to address the board to come forward, state your name, address, and make sure the green light on the podium is on. We don't want to put you on the spot. Can you make sure the green light is on, JT?
Oh, sorry. Good evening. My name's JT Anderson. I live at 2601 East Rock Road. Just wanted to formally introduce myself. I just started last week as the new CFO here at Waterloo Schools, so replacing Jeff in transition mode right now. But again, just wanted to formally introduce myself. Hopefully I'll get a chance to meet you after the meeting, but if not, thank you for hiring me, and I look forward to doing the good work here at Waterloo Schools. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Welcome. Welcome. I'll try to make them be nice to you. Oh, yeah. Sam, you want to say a few words? Or we can get you at the end. I don't want to put you on the spot.
I think you're too late to put me on the spot now. Now I'm in it. I'm Sam Kressig. I'm the interim director of human resources for the Waterloo Schools. Just started same day as JT on January 3rd. Just thank the board and Dr. Smith for this opportunity to serve our community and students and help make them have a great experience here.
Thank you. Welcome. Seeing none others, we'll move on with our agenda. Next item on our... Better turn my green light back on. The next item on our agenda is a school presentation from Pointer Elementary School. Throughout the 2024-2025 school year, we will continue to learn from building leadership teams about all the great things that are happening in their school buildings. Tonight we have Jen Willen, the principal of Pointer Elementary School, to talk to us a little bit about their program.
Okay, my name is Jill Barta, and I am the lead teacher at Pointer Elementary, working with Jen Willand. And also, we have with us our instructional coach. Really, I call her leader. She is definitely Taylor Butler. So, we're here today to talk about Project Read. We had a really wonderful gift that came to us. We have a former Jewett Elementary, if you've been around for a while. Ruth Pazdera, she went to Jewett, where she said that's where she had her love for reading. She's also a graduate of East High in 1971. She did live in Evansdale and Gilbertville area for a while and a couple other places. So for her legacy and love for reading, she actually provided an endowment of $51,000 to the Waterloo Schools Foundation to then give Pointer yearly bits of funds that they could use for different projects or different purchases, something to promote the love of reading for our children. And so we had conversation like, what's the thing we're going to do with these funds that were like a huge surprise to us? I mean, $51,000 is like, we were just floored. So we thought, what are we going to do with this money? And so we did some brainstorming, and some of our instructional strategists have been doing letters training, and a couple of them brought up this Project Read. And we looked into it and I thought, you know what? This is the thing that we can actually have access to all of our students, because we want this money to have an impact on all students, not just a small few. So Project Read is an advantage of AI. And so what it does is there's different parts of this computer system, this online program, that provides individualized opportunities for different kids. It's aligned to the standards, which was a must. We have to have that. It's based on the science of reading, which is also a must. And it also aligns with letters. There's lots going into letters training as far as cost, I'm sure, and also the amount of time the teachers are putting in, and they're exceptional. And the amount of time is like, I don't know, just mind-blowing. And they're doing it with love and passion. And so this also, Project Read, helps support that. It also is not a curriculum. It's just a supplemental piece that we have for the students. And it works on phonics and very much so decoding. We have a short little video that one of our teachers, our instructional strats, Mrs. Weideman, put together for us. Just a quick run through of some of the options that they have and some of the things we can do for the kids with Project Read.
Good evening. I'm here to share a little bit about Project Read that I use in my classroom. Project Read is a computerized program, and it has many, many features for you. Lola is an assistant that you can type in information, and she will assist you in finding information that you would like to know. I use the passage generator quite often. I can choose the grade level my students are at. My students are in second grade. I tend to go a little bit younger because they are in need of a little more assistance. I may type in a brief description of what the evaluation story should be. Lots of TH words. And then it will generate it based on how many words. I can slide this along and it'll generate up to 300 plus words. I click generate the passage, and it will generate a small passage for me that my students can use. I also get a running record sheet if I need it. Other features include comprehension generator. I may choose the grade level my students are in, type in a passage, and then ask it to generate questions for us. It also has word mapper. I can type in words like cat, and it will come up with a phrase, and you may choose these letters and it will talk. Once the kids have heard it, they may also record their own voice. They can say k, at, cat, and then choose when they're done. Another option this has is a decodable game generator. This will allow you to pick different areas and skills that you would like your students to work on. Each one of these programs has a plethora of skills that it allows you to choose from. You can also choose the game that you would like your students to play, and it will generate it and you may push it out to your students. One of the things that I also have is my classroom. My students choose to work on this when I am doing other things with students. This is an area that many of my students are in need of assistance on. I will let you see what it does.
Another consonant digraph, where two letters come together to make one sound, is T and H. They make a th sound, like at the start of the word this.
This allows them to see it and hear it at the same time. When they make errors, it will correct them.
Let's practice reading this word. Click the blue button and then read the word out loud.
A. They. They.
Great job. You read that word correctly. Let's now move on to the full story. Can you read this sentence to me?
Yin and Shin are best buds. They are to help each other.
Can you read this word again?
Like.
Great job.
This program will progress them through other objectives as they are improving on their letter skills.
Okay, so if you could see, Mrs. Weideman shared a few highlights. One thing that a lot of the teachers are using is that
I'm here to share a little bit about Project Read.
Is to is to produce a decodable passage is what a lot of the teachers are using it for. And you can see, you can really like hone in on what is the skill that the student really needs to work at, and also specifically what has the teacher been teaching, and then time to practice. And that's that opportunity they have there, because when teachers doing small group or one-on-one, how are we making sure that the other students are doing something meaningful and they're not, in a sense, practicing something that's incorrect. So they're getting that immediate feedback using Project Read and staying on task while the teacher is assisting other students. We do have a video of a little girl. It's really hard to read or hear, but I think we're just gonna show it anyway. And she's using Project Read, and you can see she has the headphones and then she has her little mic in front of her, and she's going through that process right now. But it's hard to read or hear, but
So she said coat instead of cot. So it's taking her back to that word, and each phoneme is being separated out and then blended back together so that she could say it the correct way.
Emma got the word caught wrong, and now it is correcting her and showing her the correct way to say it. Gives them multiple chances of saying or to learn the same thing. Anna is actually working on objective 13. It is working on the gut sound. She has earned 271 coins in this program.
So that was just a short little, we just wanted to show a little snippet of how the students use it. Normally, Mrs. Weideman would not be standing there recording her, obviously, but she would be working with another group of kids, and this is a skill that she had already previously taught, and she needed practice on.
So the purpose of the endowment was to foster a love in reading, and when students are struggling, sometimes they may not enjoy reading. And so reading opens your world, and that's why we're using Project Read. And then the last little snippet is it costs $999, nice little amount, for the whole school, which would be serving 370 plus kids if needed. So we thought it was a really good use of our funds, and trying not to just spend it on whatever, but spend it on something that's purposeful.
So can more than one student use it at a time?
Yep. As many as we need across different grade levels.
And this is a supplement, not part of the curriculum.
Right. Yep. Just a supplement.
Yes.
Yep. Yep. They can do it on their Chromebooks. They have their login, and
So how long have you been using this?
about a month, maybe about a month. So we're really excited though to look at then end of the year assessment scores. What was that improvement? We probably would like to use it again next year, see if there's still continuing to be that growth, because we want to use our funds for something that's having an impact. And it's important that we look at that assessment data to make sure that that is happening and we're spending that money wisely.
So why did you select this as opposed to anything else?
Because it's supported by the science of reading, which is what the state, we have to be following that. That's best practice is the science of reading, and letters is the training that all the teachers are, specifically all elementary teachers and strats are getting.
Seems like this is a great technology ad that can, stretch our budget, if you will, by having technology but they still have to be supervised by somebody, right? How does that work?
It's just setting up that process and procedures. Those are second graders, and once they get set up and they have, they know what to do, they really are independent. And yeah, you might have to kind of a little bit of a reminder to a student, but it's engaging for them. They're getting that immediate feedback. I think that's the biggest part of it. Is everyone needs feedback, but anymore, I think what the kids are getting in their lives is immediate, constant feedback from like gaming and such. And so this is giving them feedback right away, which is what they need to correct or to feel good about what they had done correctly.
So they're getting feedback through the headphones, but they're speaking verbally into the mic.
Yep. So the mic is hearing it and then giving them feedback, and then they can hear whatever it is. And it's nice because it's not interrupting learning for others around them, since it's all happening.
So how are you going to evaluate the effectiveness?
So if you want to.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in and say
Okay.
too, it sends a report to the teacher, and the students actually can send their recordings to the teacher's email. There's a button at the end of it that says send to teacher, and the kids click on that, so the teacher can listen to it and assess how they did on it. But it also has a dashboard where the teacher can see these are the skills that they've mastered along the way.
And then ultimately, in the end, we want to we should see that in our FAST scores.
So every kid has their own account. Is that how that works, right?
Yep.
And you can have as many as you want for
Yep.
the $1,000 or whatever.
Which is really a good deal,
Yeah.
considering things in education can be really expensive, and they're like per pupil, and it's like $10 a kid, and it's like, holy, we can't keep up with that. But this, any kid, and for 370 plus kids for $1,000 really is a good deal.
So once you evaluate it, are you going to recommend it either be provided to other schools or not?
We would share our results.
We would share our results and have that conversation with Mrs. Hartman.
I noticed there was a part during the demo that the teacher did that showed she plugged in, I think, like lesson something. So is it connected to her own curriculum?
There's like a supplemental resource that the strategist is using with the students. It's called UFly. And so she can say, like, UFly lesson 76, and then it will generate it has the passage focusing on that TH sound or CH.
So it can connect to all
Yeah.
kinds of different
Yep.
curriculum is what you mean?
I think there's about 4, 6 different like published type resources. So if you had more than just this UFly, you could use it. But yeah, so there's more opportunities than just that one thing that we have.
Wow. Okay.
So, in your opinion, with this program, kids with IEP, you think that would be a plus?
So,
Um,
yep. And that's the little girl you see in there. That's one of the things that she's working on. And so that definitely the students with IEPs are getting that feedback. And she's able to take and put things, maybe content that's interesting for a second grader, but that would be like at their readability level. So yes, very much so. That's as far as this UFly resource that the students' IEPs are, a lot of lessons are coming out of there, or supplements, is then they're able to connect that directly to Project Read and those passages. And yeah, so very much so.
So that will also give us another, like student IEP goals in elementary are a lot of times written around some skills. And when you have students who have fluency or decoding skills that they're working on, we can see on their graphs whether they're making progress and whether this is impacting their scores. So it's just another tool to help support.
Have you caught the AI like doing weird stuff? Or is the technology pretty?
Not yet, but
Okay.
yes, you have to kind of vet that and read it beforehand. Yes, but and that was my comment, the advantages of AI, but you can't just trust everything that comes out of there. But it's pretty secure as far as what it would be, topics it'd be generating. But yes, you have
I
to.
wasn't worried so much about the topics, just that sometimes AI says some weird, just random stuff. So
Right. Yeah. No. So they do, and it is hard, I'm sure, to generate like a bunch of words in a passage that have the ch sound. But yeah.
Is the setup similar to a Google Classroom with the teacher being able to put students in there and track it and
Yeah.
either put assignments or
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Can,
And go ahead, jump in.
I was just going to say, plus all the data reports that come back from Classroom, sometimes you can get some of those things, but this gives them a little bit more than Google Classroom would as far as the skills they're working on and how they're progressing through that.
yeah.
Well, yeah, report it to Jen at the end of the year. Let us know how it went. And what an amazing gift from Ruth's family. So, well, from Ruth, but
I know. I thought she's meant like $5,100 when she brought it up, and I was like, $1,000. My goodness, like that's amazing. So we're very appreciative of that money, and we'll make sure we use it appropriately and to impact as most kids as possible.
But some of that money went to other schools, didn't it, or not? No,
Nope, it's
totally
just
yours?
for Pointer. Yeah.
That was part of her will.
Yep.
Was that it went to the foundation and we get a portion of that. They have it in like a trust or in an endowment, yes, and we get a chunk of that money that's earned off of interest every year.
So what they're referring to is the large donation that we received and accepted at the last meeting. So this was a separate amount that went through the foundation directly to Pointer. So
From the same,
oh, okay, yep, okay, got it. We got it. All right, great job, Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is a school presentation from Lou Henry Elementary School. We have the principal, Mr. Youngkin. To give us a little bit more information. And this is for information only as well.
I'm Jake Youngkent, principal at Lou Henry. My task is very easy this evening. I am here just to introduce to you 3 awesome teachers at Lou Henry who are going to present to you their revamped model of meeting the needs of our ELL newcomer students. So I'm going to let them take it away and be nice to them, please. So this is Cassandra Thompson and Liliana Barriga and McKenna Holly.
Good evening. My team and I are here to show you about our newcomer group at Lou Henry. Okay, so this is just a little bit about our school. So at Lou Henry, we have 29.1% of students who are English language learners. That is roughly about 136 students. These students represent 21 countries. The countries are listed, and they speak a variety of languages, 20 to be exact. We have a total of 18 newcomers enrolled in our program. We define a newcomer as a student who has been in the U.S. for less than 3 years. Okay, so why we decided to create this newcomer program at Lou? We decided to create this program because newly arrived students with limited English proficiency have difficulty communicating and integrating into grade level instruction. Therefore, we wanted to give this unique group of students the boost that they need to effectively communicate their needs, make friends, and begin accessing core instruction. So this is all about our program. So we created this program for newcomers who scored emerging on the ALPA 21 screener. So that is that they had a composite score of 3 or below. In our program, there was intensive language instruction so that students could better participate in core instruction. This was a 10-week program, and there was a total of 10 units, and we taught 1 unit per week. Students were polled 45 minutes daily, and this program was also adapted depending on grade level. So we had a kindergarten and first grade group, a second and third grade group, as well as a fourth and fifth grade group. So the content that was taught was the same. It was just modified to for that so that it could be appropriate for each grade level. And the nice thing about our program was that it was cyclical. So meaning as new students arrive, they get to join the class but then also do the units that they missed.
So how we designed the program was in the summer we met as a team and talked about how last year we had several newcomer students and the projections for this year and how many newcomers and ELL students we would have as a school. And so because of that, we decided that we need some kind of a newcomer program to meet those needs. We came up with 10 different units of topics that we felt were most important, most needed for them to be successful in the classroom. And then we created activities and lessons around those topics. Another thing that we created is we had different resources for the students that we could give them to use in the classroom and outside of the classroom. For the younger students, we made a folder that they could use with lots of visuals, and they could also bring this to class, as well as a binder, again, that would line up with the units they were doing in class so that they could also look through it and then reference it later. And then for students who were older and had more literacy skills, I had found and adapted a phrase sheet of like essential phrases and then put their translation on it as well so that they could use it in the classroom to ask questions, to meet their needs, and that sort of thing. We chose the time that for our groups based on this document from the Central Rivers AEA that gives recommendations based on language level and how much time they should get of instruction per day. And then we also looked at it for what areas and language aspects we should focus on.
So now we're going to talk a little bit about some of our reflections, as well as teacher testimonies and student interviews. So upon completing kind of the first round of this specific program, we did some reflecting and found that this program allowed students to be more confident and likely to participate in the classroom. that students are more able to express their basic need in those small groups and also within their peers in their general education classroom, and also use that social language to build friendships. And then due to all those things, we've also seen some improved student behavior within the classroom. The next thing we really noticed was some improved data. So we noticed that all of our students' FAST scores have gone up, along with some other classroom assessment. We've seen improvements in writing prompts, as well as some other like formative assessments that the general education teachers have done with them. And we do strongly anticipate that these students' ELPA 21 scores will go up when they do take them next month, and we'll get those scores back at the end of the spring. And then finally, we do really feel like this program supported our building SIP goals by providing our students with more access to Tier 1 instruction and by helping to close the gap between ELLs and native English speakers. So on this slide, we have some images from some of those newcomer groups. So the top two pictures were during our Places unit. So we actually collaborated with all of the kindergarten through 3rd grade students. And in this, they got to come up with a list of their favorite places and then find images for them and label them. And then the picture in the middle is during the body unit. So students spent the week learning different body parts. You can see that one of them is holding a sheet with pictures they labeled. And then on the last day of that unit, we did some drawings with sidewalk chalk and practicing labeling as well. So another thing we did after completing this program was ask some of our classroom teachers for their feedback on this program. And overall, the feedback we got from them was really good. A lot of the classroom teachers expressed that their newcomer students were better able to adapt to being in the general education classroom. They had more communication skills, were able to make friends, and also had more access and kind of that ground level language they needed to be a part of the core instruction. So I'll give everyone a couple minutes to read through some of those also. So then finally, we did interview a few of our students who have completed that 10-week program and just kind of asked them some questions about the program and how they felt about it. So when did you arrive in the United States?
I arrived in the United States in February 2024.
Languages do you speak?
I speak French, Creole, that's my own language, and I speak English.
What things did you learn in group?
I learned and follow the rules, and I learned how to speak English.
Do you feel more comfortable in class now since you had grew?
I feel more comfortable and have friends that are like supporting me, and I feel more comfortable.
When did you arrive in the U.S.?
I arrived in U.S. in 26 February 2023.
What languages do you speak?
I speak French, Creole, and English.
What things have you learned in English?
I learned very well in English. I have Miss T, Miss Alhan teach me how do you do that in English. How do you spell something in English? I speak English.
When did you move to the United States?
December 12th.
How did you feel when you first started school here?
Scared.
How do you feel when you come to school now?
Happy.
Why?
Because I have friends and I like here and I have friends.
When did you move to the United States?
When I was 7 years old last year.
What country are you from?
Haiti.
What languages do you know?
I know French, Haiti, and English.
How did you feel when you first started school here in the United States?
I feel good here because they're really kind and they help me learn faster.
How do you feel when you come to school now?
I feel really happy
Why?
because now I feel proud of myself because I successfully um um I I now I know how to talk English really well.
What are some things that you have learned in English group?
I learn about grocery store, like Walmart, like some other shopping, like parks, like other playground, and
Could you tell us what languages you speak?
Spanish and English,
What things have you learned in English?
colors and members.
Okay. Have you made any friends in your classroom?
Yes,
Do you speak English with them?
yes.
Hi, how is your day going?
B.
Could you tell us what languages you speak?
English.
Okay. Have you made any friends in your classroom?
Yeah.
Do you speak English with them?
Yeah.
So is this a continuous 10 weeks and then another 10 weeks for a different group? How does that work?
Yes, so after they've completed their 10 weeks, then they join a different group. So usually like an emerging group, just depending on the level that they're in. So they don't have to do like the 45 minutes every day.
So you said you had 29%, I think, English language learners. That'd be like 150 kids, but they're not all part of this program because some of them are probably more than 3 years here, right? So how many qualify for this program?
So only the newcomers that have a composite score of 3 or below on their ELPA screener.
So how many typically are in this?
Yes, 18. 18 are currently enrolled, yes.
Okay, and you say people come and go. What's the mobility of during that 10 weeks? You normally get 1, 2, 3 new kids?
So they really built the program to serve students as they come. So the 10-week program is laid out, like they said, in a cyclical manner. So one of the things that is hard to predict is when students are going to come, right?
Yeah.
So each unit is independent of the other unit. So if we gain students, say in week 6, they can pick up in week 7 without needing the first 6 weeks, do the next 4 weeks, and then start back over at 1 to continue through the program. So we talked about this, but I don't remember how many students from the beginning of the year till now picked up kind of mid-year. So we've only had a couple of students join us from the beginning of the year till
Okay.
now, but they were able to just join in, basically.
What is the parent involvement with this program? Is there much parent involvement with it?
I know it was something that I brought up at conferences. So when I went to my students' conferences, I made sure that I had like a little letter for each parent in their language that I could send home with them. And so that would just kind of explain the program, the things their students were learning in it, and just kind of telling them that their student was getting that small group English instruction. And then I also told them that verbally in conferences to the ones I was able to go to.
What are they usually being pulled from that would be happening during that 45 minutes? Or does it just vary per kid?
It kind of varies. So all 6 grade levels are on just a slightly different schedule, like academically. One of the things that was really important to us is like they talked about maximizing universal instruction time. One of the things that we felt strongly about and talked to Simona about as well, and one of the things that we know about newcomer students in particular is when we can get them to a level where they can communicate somewhat effectively in the classroom, they're able to pick up more. So we made a decision this year, which was a little different than what we've done in the past, to just say, here's our 45-minute time block. We're going to pull from whatever we need to, and we're going to hopefully, by pulling for 10 weeks, we can get them back in there and get some more things rather than just have them struggle for those 10 weeks and whatever it was. So it does kind of vary grade level to grade level. We try to be mindful, obviously, of some of our core instruction blocks in literacy and math and things like that. But really, our focus with these students is building that foundation of language for them.
And I'm not real familiar with the assessment, the ELPA, is that what you called it? Are there kids coming in who have no English skills at all?
Yes, we have students who, in fact, most of our newcomers are coming in with zero English, if any. And you were asking about the ELPA. The ELPA is a test that we have to give to English language learners. When they arrive, they have to take this screener, and that has to be done within either 30 days at the beginning of the school year or 2 weeks if they enroll later in the school year. And it gives them a score in listening, reading, speaking, and writing from 1 to 5. And so then based on those scores, they are input into an ELL program, and their parents are notified, and they are getting services after that. Then in the spring, in February and March, they have the summative ELPA 21, and that also does the listening, reading, speaking, and writing, and it's a more detailed breakdown of their language abilities and proficiencies. And then that also determines, do they continue ELL services? Do they exit? What services do they need in the future? How much support do they still need?
So this year you'll be able to see, because this is new, right?
Yes.
And did you call it your newcomer? Is that what you?
Yes.
So you'll be able to see if there's like a difference in proficiencies with the test versus other years.
Yes, for sure.
When kids come in and they have no English whatsoever, is there an interpreter with them throughout the day, or?
So we're lucky at Lou Henry to have 2 full-time interpreters in our building, which is pretty rare. But that's really only 2 languages of the 20 that our
Right.
students speak. So generally speaking, no, there isn't an interpreter with them. So we do whatever we can and pull whatever resources we have to do our best to make sure that we can communicate them in their native language.
I had a couple questions here. So you said the assessment has to be done within 30 days of the start of school or within 2 weeks. What's our actual time we usually get those done?
Usually within the first week.
Okay, that's good.
We don't ever test kid on their very first day of school, because that would be terrifying. But we usually try within a week. And then at the beginning of the school year, depending on how many new enrollments and especially kindergartners we have to do, we usually get it done in like 2 weeks.
If like 30 days, I mean, that's 1/6 of the school year. That's
Yeah, it never takes us 30 days.
Do we do any before school starts if we identify kids coming in before the first day?
We have in the past, but we haven't recently.
All right. Jake, what's the? Trying to think. What I know, the number of languages at Lou Henry's greatly increased over the last decade. You know, but what's the percentage of that? Has the percentage stayed roughly the same? It went up as well as
Like
the ELL percentage.
Our ELL percentage. So I've been at Lou Henry now in
About a decade, right?
Yeah, about a decade. In one capacity or another, about 11 years. So for much of that time, we sat right around 25% ELL population. We have seen a little bit of an increase here in these last couple of years. So,
But the language diversity exchange was probably like 10 more languages at least over the last.
Probably since the time I started, that's been true. We've hovered around 20 languages for 5 or 6 years, probably.
Yeah, so going back long enough, so it's changed drastically. That's.
Yep, the overall demographics of our building have changed a lot in the last 10
Yeah.
years. So this is just kind of a microcosm of all of that. Yep.
And that's it. And you're still housing a good portion of special ed too for the district.
Yep.
Does that having both fare at such a high level ELL and that tax your resources quite a bit, or?
So the district programming at the special ed level is sort of independent resources. Like it's building resources, obviously, but because they're district-wide programming, like we have different kind of allocations for that.
Okay.
And then ELL, we kind of are under the same kind of bubble as everybody else, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So within each newcomer cohort group, you could have K throughs 5.
We did differentiate the 3 groups this year, so we are lucky enough to have 3 full-time ELL teachers, and they generally do. There is some crossover, but they generally do work in sort of a grade level strand. So we have one that teaches primarily in the K1 level, one in the 2-3 level, and one in the 4-5. So we kept our newcomer groups to those same grade level strands.
Thank you.
One thing I would like to do is definitely commend you with this program. thinking outside the box, looking at something to be able to help students. You mentioned on the fact of let's just pull them so they can get these resources. Because if they're reading better, understanding things better, guess what? Their learning happens. It just increases. So I definitely just want to just commend you and how you came across your of those 10 different things of 10 different weeks. Hey, commend you on that too.
I want to just say in relation to that, Mr. Cox, that thank you. All of the credit goes to these three people standing behind me. They really, this was their baby. They did it. I just said yes. So thank you.
Good way to end. Good job. And while you're still here, we want to thank Lou Henry, thank you guys, and Pointer as well for getting the board meeting off to a good start. We've been gone for a little bit. What a way to start the board meeting. So wonderful job. Keep up the great work. Moving on in our agenda, item 8, the summer work-based learning proposal, and this is for information only as well. Our work-based learning have implemented some changes for the 2024-2025 school year and into the 25-26 school year. And we have our own Jeff Frost here to give us a little bit more information on what to expect from these changes.
Thank you. Jeff Frost, Executive Director of Professional Technical Education for the district. And I wish this was more than just a informational piece, but the state seems to keep throwing us little curveballs. We think we have it done, and then like, oh, another piece comes out. So this is actually going to be an action item, but then they threw us another tidbit that we have to look at and scrutinize and then put into play here. But I think we're very close. We had another Zoom today with the DE, and I think by the next board meeting, this will actually be coming forward as an action item just for approval. So I'll give you the information tonight. You can ask your questions. You can ask the questions when we go for approval also, obviously, but I'll kind of give you the Reader's Digest version of what it is here. So the bottom line is the state of Iowa, as part of the ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act, has indicators that they look at for schools. You know, they rate schools based on various things. And they've changed them this year, and included in this, they've changed kind of what I would call as the post-secondary readiness scale. Ironically, it started for this school year, so we're actually creating some action items, and they're still giving us guidance for something that actually started back at the beginning of this school year here. But for secondary schools, specifically high schools, the state is requiring, which is going to be about 11% of the grade for the schools that are in the state, requiring that every student, is their goal, has at some point before they graduate a work-based learning component, along with for this year they also want every student to have taken at least one college course, and then starting next year they're going to want every student to have transcripted that they've received an industry recognized credential. So that'd be something like an OSHA certification, CNA, things like that. So pretty hefty bar, pretty big lifts for every school district in the state.
That's for every kid?
Well, the goal is every student. What'll happen is we get graded on the percentage of students that meet those 3 criteria. Okay. So obviously we want more students to have work-based learning, to have an industry recognized credential, and to have a concurrent or college credit before they graduate. So to kind of get out front of this, we were actually taking advantage of last year in the legislative series, or last year's legislative year. They passed Senate File 2411, which basically allowed districts to start using summer work opportunities for work-based learning. So that has not been allowed in the past, but they did this Senate file, I think kind of when they started realizing that they're going to push for having every student to have work-based learning opportunities. Students, you know, schedules get tight. There's not a lot of opportunities for some students during the school year to obtain that. So we actually have the opportunity to have students earn this credit, I'd say, because that's really what it is, or be identified as a work-based learning opportunity during the summer. So what we're doing is we're getting out front of this, and we're putting together a plan, which is really near completion. Just got to tweak it a little bit and bring it back next meeting probably. But what we're doing is we're going to focus on identifying students. This year, for next year, would be sophomores and juniors. That'll be juniors and seniors that are working during the summer and trying to give them opportunities for credit for work-based learning. Now, two caveats to this that are important to understand moving forward here, because it's not just willy-nilly, I'm going to go out into tassel so you get a work-based learning credit. It can't be that. One thing is it does have to tie back to the student's career interests that they've shown. So we, of course, have multiple data points to tell us what students' interests are. So when a student moves forward and we look at the opportunity to give them credit for a work-based learning credit, it does have to tie back into what their career interest is. So again, it can't be, I guess technically I could say working at McDonald's. If you are interested in culinary, there may be a connection there. That's one of the areas that the state's really kind of still giving us guidance on, is really that connection between what is deemed interest and what would really tie into earning that credit there. So we're really looking at this and tying it down, and actually just want to give our kids a chance, and really the district an opportunity to take advantage of all of our students that do work during the summer, and in many cases actually does tie into what their career interest is. So right now, just tentatively, just to kind of give you in a nutshell what it may look like, we're looking at a student would have to have at least 60 hours during the summer earned, which equals about a Carnegie unit. So if you look at what, when we give a credit unit to a student in any class, it always ties back to 60 hours of the Carnegie unit there. So 60 hours, we're basically saying you're going to have to average about 6 hours over a 10-week cycle during the summer. Our goal would be to start identifying students this spring yet, using our work-based learning coordinator, Kelly Martin, and with the help of our counselors and our building administrators. And then what would happen is once we have identified students and then that have maybe a summer job or an opportunity, we're going to try to connect that with their student interest, and then let them know before they go into the summer that they would meet the criteria. During the summer, we're thinking that they would have to have timesheets, weekly timesheets that would be signed off by their supervisor at work, with Kelly checking in on them. They would also have to meet other criteria, which we're still working on. It's not just show up, get 60 hours, and we'll give you the credit. We do want them to have things like in there that other internships would have, things such as professional skills. Do they show up on time? Are they, do they have good attendance? Are they competent? Things like that. Those are little pieces that we're still kind of formulating or trying to figure out and finalize. But the bottom line is, we as a district, really, the impetus is really around this, is to make sure that we're working towards the post-secondary readiness. We see the summer as a great opportunity to have students earn this credit when maybe during the school year, a lot of them may not have that opportunity. So again, I wish I was here saying this is actually going to be an action step, but tonight it's actually going to be informational. Hopefully at the next meeting, it will be an action item, and much more defined details that you would have given to you, and opportunity to ask questions. But you have opportunity to ask questions right now also.
It's a start. It's a start.
Yes.
My one question, during this time where we're waiting to possibly you bringing it back to us, is there any programs that you're going to be working on or looking at to track, other than using the student to bring that information back? So like tracking the hours, tracking where they're doing, if they change jobs. Is that like a program or anything?
Great question. Honestly, at this point, it's probably going to be on our work-based coordinator, Kelly, because, right now we're just kind of creating it, I would say on the run, but it's really going to be a pretty tight system when we have it. But right now, those are things that down the road we could look at. One thing we don't want to happen, because this is one of the big things, is like, our business partners that hire these, and actually some of these are going to have summer jobs with people that maybe aren't even our partners yet. And so what we don't want to do is to make it a burden on them where they feel like the business owners are always having to fill out cards and go online and check. And, there's a lot of stuff running a business. The last thing we want to do is make it a burden to have one of our students trying to earn a credit. So we really want to put the burden on us, which is Kelly. But with that said, there are ways and there are systems within Zello and other places where Kelly can do tracking and stuff to make it systemically easier for him. But as far as the businesses, that's going to be kind of tough, maybe other than like surveys and stuff like that.
Well, I meant through the student is what I meant. I know students even during the school year, not necessarily during the summer, and how Google Classroom is set up, or things that they have to check and submit electronically sometimes don't always be in the forefront of their minds when there's a lot going on. And then with this being over the summer months, just being able to track and know, either their schedules or that they're maintaining or getting those 60 hours.
Right.
Just having a place, a single place or a single system that.
Actually, we've been kind of creating this. We've had multiple meetings and kind of creating this again on the fly, but we do have a pretty good vision. But that's something we haven't really thought of. But Google Classroom and a place, a portal where the student actually can go. I mean, we do that with all our other internships during the school year. Specifically, I think of like our CNAs. They use Google Classroom all the time, and they report out there, and we can see their schedules ahead of time. So I think maybe just added a component to what we hadn't thought about yet, but I really do like that idea.
Or even how the co-op is calculated, or when they do that.
Like I said, right now, but I think that's a great idea because I think Google Classroom is underutilized, and I think it's a great opportunity. And honestly, if we're going to give them credit, there has to be a little skin in the game for them, besides getting their timesheets signed and turned in, or keeping track of them, and during the summer months. I think there is, if you're going to get a credit, it's not just showing up for work and, hey, I worked my 60 hours, so I'm going to get a credit. No, there's got to be more steps to that and responsibility.
Yeah, and I love the intent of it.
Yeah,
I love the intent.
What about a program that is an internship but doesn't actually pay a salary?
Yeah, I was going to ask the same thing. Does it
Like
have to be?
I sent you an example you can look at later on, but like
is that you?
Yeah, it's me. Like you'll have to read this because like a program that say there's a residential program and they're not paying a salary but they're providing room, board, and food for during that time frame. I mean, I guess technically that is you're being paid something. You're not having to.
Well, does it have to even have that? I mean,
So if you look at the summary in the board minutes, that actually lays out what the state had given us guidance up until the last week. So it says sustained project-based learning in partnership with an employer, simulated work experience aligned with industry recognized credentials, high quality pre-apprenticeship aligned apprenticeship, student learner programs, internships, or apprenticeships. So nowhere in there per se, especially on the first four, I don't think you would have to say paid to have an internship. In fact, we have multiple unpaid internships that would meet the criteria already. So I'm pretty sure that the state would say if it meets the criteria of internship, paid or unpaid, that they would get that credit for that.
All right. Well, you can take a look at that and see if that kind of example like that fits in that.
So do you envision, or are you prepared to offer a academic component to these summer jobs? In other words, take the example of the person that works 60 hours at McDonald's. Every job has a business component to it, and quite frankly, industry recognized certification, probably OSHA. If OSHA counts, every job needs that. So if we taught that across the board, you would kind of meet that. But what I'm wondering is, so you have 60 hours at McDonald's, but then a few hours interpersonal skills, a few hours maybe part of the culinary program. But is there a 4 or 5 or 6 hours or 2 hours from an academic provided by the district that you anticipate to be part of this in order to cement all this together?
That's a great question. And actually, we've kind of had inner conversations like, does it have to be more than just showing up for work and getting your hours in? What other components to that? And like, we're working on like what other checklist points need to be part of this. One of the problems compared to a summer internship versus an in the school year internship, where we actually do have the classes that teach, once a month, where they have resume building and interview skills and things like that. When you have a summer internship, a lot of times it's very difficult to, you have kids that would be scattered all throughout the community, whereas, we would not have them, like during, when they get the credit for internship during the school year, we actually have them come in as part of the class. They have to come in and do that monthly teaching or lessons. It's pretty difficult. We've all kind of thought it's somewhat difficult to really to get all the kids in one place, to bring them in during the school year to do that. We're also looking at some guidance from other districts, and that is not something I've seen as part of like a summer program. But obviously, with this first blush, it's really open for, first of all, it's not even completed, so it hasn't been brought to you for action. But, we will evaluate it consistently and constantly, and it will evolve and grow and change over time. Will it have this summer that piece to it? I don't know. I can't say yes or no. Obviously, it's something I'm going to take back to our group to consider.
It should. Like every Thursday, we're going to hold these classes, and you come in the morning or afternoon, whichever fits your schedule. It seems like that really needs to be part of the program.
And I understand that. One of the things that I'm fearful of pushing that angle, just in my personal opinion, I don't want it to become too limiting, because kids, let's say they work, the employer expects them there 8 hours a day or 6 hours a day, and then they go off to baseball or softball, or what happens is where do they find that time? And I'm pretty sure the employer is not going to be up for them. Hey, we need to take you out 3 hours so we can give you professional skills. I think part of our conversations and part of the agreement when we sign on with the employers is going to be about expectations and hopes that we have from them in regards to, their orientations, their onboarding, and things like that are hopefully part of that. But I get what you're saying, Lyle, totally. I totally understand what you're saying.
We just need to be flexible enough that doesn't interfere with anything else. It gives them, you're talking a lot of kids. You're talking to every kid, right? So there's going to
Hopefully.
So there's going to be, 20 at a time fill whatever spot. My other thought is that it seems like this works perfectly with FFA. Every FFA activity has a connection, right?
Really, all of our, CTSOs, career and technical ed, student organizations really have I would say an advantage per se in that ground, but especially FFA. If Hunter brings a group of kids in during the summer, if you read along those first couple bullet points, that's what, that's pretty much meeting the criteria there. So absolutely. I think there's a lot of ways that students can get this credit besides just actually working a job. And, it's a work-based learning opportunity, but it doesn't always mean I'm having to work at a job, at a business, and, getting a paycheck. There are inherent or built-in opportunities definitely for organizations like that.
It just seems like, given our advantage of the number of students who take a career course, that we ought to be number one in the state in fulfilling this
One would hope so.
agreement.
The one thing that would happen, in going back to that one, with Hunter's example of FFA specifically, his extended contract, and that's where you're going to run into troubles per se, because if they have to get 60 hours in during a summer period, and his extended contract is only 20 days, let's say they work, X amount of hours, they may not get to that point. I'm not sure that kids may actually have other commitments where they can't be there for the FFA piece, and they have to actually go in and work another job or go to baseball or softball or have this and that going on in life. And, if Hunter's schedule and their schedule aligns and they get the 60 hours, that's great. But I'm not sure, if we can make that happen, obviously we would.
Jeff, how are you determining eligibility? I know you mentioned in February there'll be a survey going out. This will go out to all students, and you're going to try to get those back with the individuals working with you. But how do you ultimately determine that eligibility to actually do a summer internship?
Great question. So, survey will go out to all 10th and 11th graders. They will, if they don't have a summer job or don't plan on it, they're eliminated kind of right away. But the ones that say, yes, I will have a summer job, or I hope to have a summer job, if they know what it is, they're going to put it on this Google survey and tell us what it is. Then we're going to, they can write down their career interests on the sheet or fill it out as part of the survey. But we'll check also within Zello, because again, we track every student. We have information on their career interests and pathways. And if there's alignment there, that's where Kelly will be pretty busy in the spring, because he's going to have to, when all these surveys come in, check, cross-reference, this is their job or potential job, this is their potential interest area, do they align? So there's we have to determine it, and it's really, the state is pretty broad on their scale of connection, but I don't think we're going to be that loose per se. I think we really do want a connection there. I'll give you an example here. If a student says, I'm interested in agriculture, and they're going to go out into tassel, I've used that as an example. I don't think that per se is really, it is agriculture, but the tasseling is more labor-driven. Pulling tassels, not really about, but maybe there's an understanding there. Maybe you could tell me otherwise, but I think we'll look at that, and make a determination. Once it's determined that there is a connection, then we have a meeting with them, probably in May-ish, and then just kind of bring them together and talk about, hey, you have an opportunity to earn a credit. This is what you can do, and see how many students take advantage of this. The other thing we've talked about is sometimes kids do not get summer jobs until summer. So I've said all along, we need to be flexible for the student that, school year ends, they're aware of this, now they get a summer job. Maybe it's a week into the summer, but if we get contact that they have a summer job and they want to earn this credit opportunity, we absolutely, if it connects, need to make sure that it happens. If they can get their 60 hours in, meet the criteria, why would we not allow? Really, this is truly about opportunity. It's about flexibility. So to me, I know we're going to set arbitrary deadlines, but loose versus tight. This is going to be looser in identification and starting and things like that, because we need to be looser. We need to allow students that get a job 2 weeks into summer but can still get their hours in and are going to, we need to allow them the opportunity to get that credit.
And I'm hoping it's an opportunity for students that may not even think about having an internship. It may not be on their mind. I know working at a college, a lot of times, we want our sophomore to start, but they don't start thinking about it till later on. So hopefully it's an opportunity to encourage some students to get involved in it as well.
Well, and I think a big thing for us is we have a career fair at the Career Center coming up on March 6th, which is really kind of a summer hiring career fair. So it's really a twofold thing. It's a career interest, expose them to a bunch of careers, but it's also a hiring event for our over 100 business partners. So what we really want to do is really take advantage and get this information out prior to that, so students can actually start kind of going through and maybe getting connected for a summer job right there. And honestly, if they get hired out of that career fair, it's almost guaranteed to be an interest area. So, that's really kind of the goal. We've had multiple students, lots of students have been hired out of that career fair every year. And so I think this is a great opportunity to not only have an amazing career fair on March 6th, but to actually connect the dots with work-based learning and get those students credit for this also.
So there's a credit associated with work-based learning?
Yes, they would get a credit of 1 credit based on 60 hours. Again, like I said, Carnegie, the Carnegie units are based on 60 hours of seat time. So the correlation to that is 60 hours of work time would be a Carnegie unit.
See, to me, it'd be worth it for this student. And again, flexibility, I think, is the key here. Take the detasseling example. All right, you say it doesn't really apply. Well,
I don't.
Most of those detasselers work for a local entrepreneur that has a business plan. Just for those students to understand what's the business plan of this whole tasseling, or even go a little bit deeper into the business plan of the Pioneer or whoever the detasseler is. It just seems like all kinds of opportunity, but we need to have flexible staff so that we can provide that at a time that's convenient for these kids. But if they're going to get a credit, then I think would have some incentive.
Making sure the intent is there. Making sure the
Yes.
intent is there.
Well, I think that's
beyond just the.
That's why it has to be more. And we had this conversation. Actually, Josh and Amy Meehy and I think Dana. We had a group committee already, and we discussed that. It's like it can't just be showing up, getting your 60 hours. We give you credit because you got the seat time. Because it has to be deeper. So Kelly's actually developing a checklist based on best practice of work-based learning of what all needs to be in there. Part of that is obviously professional skills, which would tie back to attendance, commitment, showing up on time, all those things. He's developing that there. And so actually when we come back, on hopefully 2 weeks, you'll actually see kind of laid out what those expectations of a student are. Now, as of now, we don't have in there, I don't have in there a classroom component, just because I kind of felt it might be difficult during the summer to get kids into a classroom setting. I don't see Kelly going to an end of a cornfield and taking 6 kids that are Waterloo students and teaching a class, but maybe we figure out how we can get them in. I don't know. I mean, that's,
Well,
like I said, we're going to create the model,
Could
and
it
it's
be
going to
virtual,
change and
though?
morph, and we're going to,
could you do something virtually or no?
we could. Again, the one thing that, like, the goal of this, ultimately, the bottom line is, like, we're going to get graded on this. Like, our students, literally, the state is going to start looking at work-based learning, how many % of students participated, how many students get an industry-recognized credential, and how many students have gone to a college credit. If we become so restrictive with lots of requirements, even more so than we have in our regular program, then it's going to kind of defeat the purpose. And our number of, Lyle said we want to have the best numbers in the state. I'd agree. We should, but it might become so restrictive that either the students are like, I'm not going to do that. I don't care. 1 credit for summer doesn't matter to me. Or the employers are like, I don't do that because I need you, or I don't want to take the time and stuff. So it's kind of a fine line we're balancing right now. To tell you, it'll be a fine line, but I will tell you this: it will always be looked at. It will always be tweaked. It will always be, we're going to keep it moving forward to make sure that it's the best possible outcome and that they are actually earning that credit. Because again, we just don't want to give a credit to a student that really hasn't earned it other than just showing up for work.
Well, I'm confident that you guys will do the best and have the best practice. Tell him don't rush on it, or you guys don't rush on it. Take your time. We don't need to see it in 2 weeks. Get the best process to make sure it's successful and sustainable. So we're not in a hurry to get it back. So great job.
Perfect.
I had a couple.
Great job.
I had a couple questions. So still, how's it?
I told everybody I'd be up here 2 minutes.
All right. Well,
We were
question
hoping that
you
it would
talk
know.
about how the state judges on these things. How does the 28E agreements play into this? Are those students counted as ours or their home districts? Do we get credit? How is that with
Great
particular
question.
FCC?
So, great question. So, what happens is how the 28Es are written is the home school gets credit for their students that come in to our district. How that's written, so like just say they're taking a college class at the Career Center, those students still are Hudson students or Dyke or whatever. They pay their money, and because of that, they get the credit for that student because they paid a stipend to get them into the Career Center. So that's kind of the trade-off, because these districts all need to meet the same criteria that we do. And the trade-off is because they're paying a stipend to us for their students to attend the Career Center, that they in return get they get what's called offer and teach. So, you know, some schools use us as their offer and teach in the program of studies. They also get the credit for industry recognized credentials for work-based learning, for the college credit, because ultimately, even though they're Waterloo Career Center students, they're still pirates and sailors and dons and raiders, and you know they're not our students.
Yeah, and with 20E then, so but I also mean that would we be competing against other districts? Like, would we be shortchanging our kids by that process if we're the ones helping find those work-based learning programs? Like,
Well, I see what you're saying, because like it's all based on percent, right? And if we help Janesville get 20% of their students a work-based learning credit,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get that the scale of that would, you know, maybe be skewed, but here's what I'd say. We need to do a better job. I always worry about us, and I don't worry about if Janesville or Hudson kids get this or that, because we need to do a better job internally to make sure every kid goes out there, every kid gets a credit, every kid does a work-based learning experience, that they get the IRCs. That's on us. You know, if Janesville and Dunkerton kids get that, so what?
Yeah,
you know, we
my
just need to
thing
make sure our kids do it.
Yeah, the only thing is if we're facilitating getting them the work-based connection, then you know, did we at dismiss if they got one, did it take one from one of our kids?
I would say no, because what I would say is like businesses are going to hire. We don't have right now enough kids per se that are interested in these opportunities to fill the spots that the business partners would be willing to fill. So until we get to the point where like we don't have enough slots of work-based learning available in all our career fields, you know, then that's maybe when we start having the conversation a little bit.
That's fair.
But right now we're not to that point. So if a Waterloo kid wants an internship or an apprenticeship, we'll find it for them. They'll get it, and they'll get the credit for it, guaranteed. Right now, as of January 13th.
Yeah. Second question, a little easier. You talk about career fair. Is that open for? And do you get much attendance from the kids who don't take WCC classes?
It is available for them, and actually, I don't know if it's required. I should know this, but we do have a lot of students from the high schools that do show up for that.
Okay, good.
But I think it might actually be. I don't know. I don't quote me on it, but I think they actually attend it from East and West also. Maybe if it fits in their schedule, or I don't know. I'd have to look at that. I'm always on the periphery of like the nuts and bolts and very detailed pieces.
All right.
Well, thank you.
We've kept you long enough.
Oh, that's fine anymore. We'll get this refined. It might not be 2 weeks. We got time. We'll make this happen.
Yep.
We'll have a really tight program.
All right. Good deal. Good deal.
Thanks, everyone.
We're waiting on it.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right. Appreciate you, Jeff. That brings us to the next item on our agenda, the consent agenda. Tonight's consent agenda consists of 6 items. Approval of minutes of the December 9th, 2024 regular board meeting. Item 2, personnel appointments and adjustments. Item 3, bills due and bills payable between board meetings. Item 4, the 28E agreement between Grundy Center, CSD, and Waterloo Schools, Waterloo Career Center. Item 5, appointment of board member to the Black Hawk County Conference Board. And item 6, set date of public hearing for the Bunger Middle School track and field project. Are there any items that board members want to see removed this evening? Going once? Seeing none, can I get a motion to put these on the table?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor of approving item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4, item 5, and item 6, state aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carried. That brings us to item 10, funding for the 2025-2026 at-risk programs. It's the superintendent's recommendation that the Board of Education approve the Waterloo District at-risk plan as presented. Can we get a motion? Second. Okay, and we have our own Amy Schmidt, Jen Hartman. We have everybody in attendance this evening. So school districts may apply for increased revenues to serve students identified as academically at risk and therefore potentially at risk of dropping out of school. At-risk education programs can also serve returning dropouts, students who were not included in the previous year's budget enrollment. The 2025-2026 at-risk application seeks continuing funding for the following programs: Family Support Workers, PBIS, Success Link, IJAG, School Resource Officers, PBDA, Credit Recovery. Expo Alternative Learning Center, Summer School, After School Programming. So are there any questions for any of these individuals on this adoption?
Has any of this really changed or is new, Amy?
No, I would say that it's not. Nothing's really changed significantly. I will tell you that we are looking at our summer school programming and what that looks like, particularly in the middle schools. I think there's an opportunity we've discussed in the secondary as well as elementary. Just revamping that and making sure that it's quality for summer offerings. I think it's also important just to reflect on, this is also a combination with student services and Sheena's department. If you look on here, just some of that work with Adrian Carlson as well. But nothing that's significantly changed on here. I just appreciate Jeff making sure that our department articulates it and has it all on a nice plan, right? I don't think that we could find anything before, so I think it was good for us to put this on paper and reference it so we all have it.
It might be interesting at some point to do a workshop or something to go over our at-risk stuff, you know.
Have these items, have they undergone a budget review process? I guess my question is it just a continuation of last year, or given financial concerns, has there been kind of a cost-benefit ratio applied to each of these and a hierarchy said this has the most benefit?
Yes, Lyle, I would say that a few of these I think you're aware of as we've gone through our budget constraints. Our teams have come together and evaluated all these programs, specifically looking at PBDA, credit recovery. We have some proposals and some ideas on what we can look at for those things. IJAG is also something we've been having conversations at and looking at the data, et cetera, just to kind of grow the success of the program. But then also summer school. Just again, how can we get smarter with the dollars that we use in the summer, wanting to make sure that we are offering something for all of our students, but knowing that maybe in the past, and I would look at Miss Cora Turner, who's run our middle school program for a very long time, there's some opportunities there. So I think the budget constraints have caused us to look at the data to show us what results we're actually getting. So those are the main ones I would say right now that we've looked at. Any others, Jen, Josh, that you feel like? I think Josh and Jen have some.
And I'm not suggesting that you necessarily eliminate them, but each one, there's always continuous improvement and efficiency improvement that can be made, whether it's because of a technology ad or whatever it is. And I just curious how deep we've gone into that.
Amy kept looking over at my way, so I thought I better come up and say a few things at least. But Yeah, I think you guys are spot on, and I would also reference with the secondary restructure coming in a couple of years, that's allowed us to kind of look at some of the different programming and how they might evolve. The 8-9 programming in particular within that building. We have the Bridges program currently. How that looks and feels in an 8-9 setup is going to be significantly different. So we want to make sure that we're also looking ahead to the future with some of our planning in conjunction with the budget situation that we're in. So we're close to some decisions on some of the different things that we've been talking about. Amy and I met today, and I'll be making rounds with the high school principals again this week to get some final input on some of those ideas as we move forward with the secondary stuff.
That's good to hear because, I mean, one of the reasons for the consolidation is cost efficiency. And, you know,
Yeah, you're right, Lyle. And this is the kind of the perfect content area or area, if you will, that we can really look at those and also improve our programming at the same time. That 8-9 building it's a really good opportunity for our district to look at what, as we made our rounds in the town hall meetings, we really focused on the freshman year struggles that we see. So this is a really good opportunity for us to look towards the future and improve some of that programming. And I think our administrators all feel that and are looking forward to it as well.
because we know we're not going to get the benefits until 28, the full benefits of the consolidation financially. But taxpayers are gonna probably not like the interim, so we need to consider that while we work towards a truly efficient system.
Absolutely.
Sound good? All right. All those in favor of approving the superintendent's recommendation, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carried. Thank you all for your work on this as well. Jeff. Navigating this board agenda pretty good. This technology. The next item on our agenda is the SBRC request for MSA to fund the The SBRC request for MSA to fund the 2025-2026 at-risk programs. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the Board of Education authorize the district to submit a request to the School Budget Review Committee, SBRC, in the amount of $4,230,892 for modified supplemental amount MSA for the purpose of funding the district's at-risk programs for the 2025-2026 school year. Okay, and do we have any questions on this? This is just the amount.
This looks like a specific amount, so if it's for the 25-26 program, how do we know that?
Yeah, so it's a state formula. It's our certified enrollment this last October, which was 10,812 students, times our district cost per pupil of 7,826. And then the state's formula says you multiply those and you can take a maximum of 5% of that number, and that comes out to the 4,230,892.
Whether you actually spend that on the at-risk programs or not?
No, has to be for at-risk programs.
So how do we know we're going to spend $4,230,000?
We have, with the programs that you guys just approved, we have always had a difficulty staying within budget on those, so we will fully spend that budget.
It says from what 5 million at-risk budget will be. So you got.
Yeah. So
you got,
the 4.2 million is what will be funded completely by property taxes. Then the state requires a 25% match from the district's general fund for an additional 1.4 million for a total of 5.6 million.
It will be funded by property tax if we levy them.
Yes. But yes,
this doesn't levy any.
This taxes. Does not levy, but this gives us authority.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't actually have to put, we would.
Yeah.
This is just how much we can
Th-
put in
This
that
is,
pot.
this is the maximum we will have for an at-risk budget, yes.
And then 25% you said is matched by.
That's out of our general fund, yes.
Jeff, have we ever not?
No, we've always gone for the maximum as far as I can remember back.
Thank you.
And again, that's maximum authority, not maximum,
Not maximum levy.
not a taxpayer levy.
Okay, any more questions? So all those in favor of approving the superintendent's recommendation, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carried. That brings us to our board policy changes first reading. And it's quite lengthy, so I won't dare read them all, because I'll read a few in a second. But if there are any questions, our own Pam Armendorfer is here. It's the first reading, so we'll have a little time. If there are any questions, get those emails to Pam in enough time that they can be looked at, or if there's something that you know right now that you have a question on, we can probably answer it right now. But if not, look over them, email them, make sure all the wording is correct. And if there are any questions on there.
Just out of curiosity, the ones that are, what's the reason some are deleted, some are?
Sure. So, you're familiar with the policy audit that we just had IASB do. So really what we're trying to do as a committee is make sure that our policies are in line with some of the recommendations of what IASB is sending out. IASB will send out, based on legislative changes, what they call their policy primer. When we receive that, then we go back and we compare that with our policies. Well, right now, their policy numbers, titles, all of that are not in alignment with what we have. So this is all, the recodifications are all in an effort to get our policies in alignment there so we can more easily track. And especially because I will be retiring in the next, few years, I want to leave this. My goal is to leave our policy manual, so it's really easy for the next person in line to come in and take and do it.
Does that require board approval?
Yes, but remember, I get to determine what comes to the board for approval.
Okay.
I get to kind of. So, yeah, so that's what a lot of that is. And some of the deletions are a matter of, we have quite a few policies throughout our manual that we might address an issue in one policy and then we address it also in another one. So it's trying to clean that up a little bit too. So that's where some of the deletions are coming in. It's melding a few policies together so that it's just more consistent.
I would just, because we did all these during policy review, so I would just encourage my fellow board members to read the ones that really relate to us. Because I do think that it would be a great idea for us then at some point to have a workshop to kind of go over it all, so we're all on the same page.
Good point, Stacy. Or Director Mills. So that was I'm a little lost for words now. We started the meeting off so great with Pointer and with Henry, and Pam just had to dampen my spirits a little
We
bit.
get to end with policy. The other thing that is, the more that I delve into this, and quite frankly, I was geeking out a little bit on policy this afternoon too. So, but the more I really dig into it, we have a lot of policies that I believe were written at a time maybe that a certain issue might have arisen. So we thought, oh, we need to have a policy that surrounds that. It's not necessary. It would be more of what the district is putting into practice as opposed to what is being governed by legislation. So, those are some of the things that it doesn't hurt to keep those in our policy manual, but those are ones that will really start getting to in policy review, discussing whether, is that something that's valid and relevant to today? Or was that something that we wrote 50 years ago that really is not relevant or may not even legally be relevant? So it's been an interesting process.
Like how to check out those like things in the library where you used to watch the movie and you crank it. Yeah.
Okay, any more questions? And that was just for information only. Like I said, if there are questions that arise, you can get those to Pam by email before next board meeting. So on to item 13, board policy changes, second reading. Let me grab it quick. Okay, here we go. Here we go. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the Board of Education approve the following policies: licensed employee tutoring, student lockers, student substance abuse, search and seizure, student fines, fees, charges, good conduct rule, corporal punishment, mechanical restraint and phone restraint, physical restraint and seclusion of students, student organizations, testing program, early graduation, parent and family engagement district-wide policy, student directory information, student media center curriculum circulation record, administration of medication to students, student special health services, wellness, open night, school calendar, school day, curriculum evaluation, multicultural gender fair education, health education, physical education, global education, citizenship, appropriate use of online learning platforms, media centers, use of information resources, student guidance and counseling program, and purpose of non-instructional and business services. Can we get a motion to put those on the table? Second.
Second.
And questions? Seeing none. All those in favor of approving the superintendent's recommendation, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carried. That ends our action items for the evening, and now on to the superintendent's report.
All right, got a few updates for us here tonight. For the first time, all the board's aware here, but the first time in many years, we offered an early retirement incentive that we sent out before winter break. And we just recently let those employees know who received the incentive and want to give you an update on that. Stacy and I had a one-to-one before this, and she asked about that. I'm like, that'd be a good thing to bring up in this setting. So total 42 employees took the early retirement incentive, 13 teachers, 26 support staff, and 3 admins. So we felt pretty good. We thought it might be a little bit higher in terms of the number of staff who took it, but we feel pretty good, and the people who accepted it are pretty excited about the opportunity, and it really helps us plan for next year. Not only does it save us some money on those positions, but also helps us plan for next year by knowing who plans to leave us much earlier in the year than we normally would. So appreciate your support on that. It was an opportunity for us to kind of just learn what that would look like, and overall the feedback has been pretty positive on it. So second thing is high school next steps. We're doing a lot of work on that the new high school behind, there was a lot of work leading up to November 5th. Was that what day it was? November 5th. But at our next meeting, Emily and myself and Pam and a few others have been working on kind of like, hey, what are the next steps? What's the timeline look like? And so we will roll that out to you at the next school board meeting. So that's just kind of giving you a little bit of a foreshadowing of our next meeting about what you can expect. This Thursday night, East High Wrestling Room. There will be a grand opening open house of the wrestling room. Last month in December, we had one for West High, and that was a pretty cool event, seeing some of the youth wrestlers there and the high schoolers and parents and coaches. And East High is planning a similar thing this Thursday night. So appreciate the board's support on the funding of those two wrestling rooms. The feedback has been very, very positive. Last but not least, it's going to be a busy weekend here with a couple events coming up for two different, banquets that are going to happen. Leader and Me is having their annual event this Friday night, so I will be there with some of our staff members celebrating all the cool things going on with Leader and Me. We've got some staff who are being awarded some pretty cool. I think it's at least I know one administrator.
Yep.
One teacher
Correct.
and one student are all being recognized Friday night for all they've done for Leader and Me. So that'll be pretty cool. And then that's at Bien. Well, how do you pronounce it? Bien venue. In Cedar Falls. So obviously we wish that was in Waterloo, but it is for the entire Cedar Valley for that event. And then Sunday, I think I might see a few of you there, is the MLK banquet downtown Waterloo at the convention center. So Sunday evening. And one really cool thing is that our Central Middle School students have been asked to present. I've only been there for 3 years. This will be my 3rd year, but I have not seen our students actually get up and present something. So that'll be pretty cool. So at the banquet. Yes. So we're super excited for that, and it should be a fun weekend with some events coming up. And don't forget, and I'm sure Astor will cover this, no schools next Monday for Martin Luther King Day. So that's all I have for this week.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. And tonight we'll start with Director Mills.
I don't have a lot. I just wanted to say how cool it is always to have the celebrations and people come in, but also to welcome JT and Sam in your positions. And we're looking very excited to both of you. And I'm going to miss Jeff immensely, but I'm excited about the future of what we're doing. So.
Thank you, Director Mills. Director Knight.
Yeah, I just appreciate Jeff's time up here tonight as the work-based learning stuff. I mean, it's very dynamic right now, and I'm trying to nail down a plan, but, trying to get the kids, some really practical experience of what they want to do in their careers or their lives, or maybe expose them to something they haven't seen there, and just, engage them that way and keep them engaged in the summer. I think some really good stuff there. So I know it's, still trying to get, defined. There's a lot of, the devil in the details to make sure that we execute on that right and get, how we do that in the summer when we don't have contact. But I think there's just a lot of great stuff going on there. So appreciate all of his updates on that. More than 2 minutes.
Thank you, Director Knight. Director Ewing.
I look forward to all the planning for the new high school, but I just wanted to put a bug in some people's ear that the high school band directors were chatting that wouldn't it be neat to have a piece commissioned for the middle schools for the two high schools as they come together to play. Sorry, and wouldn't it be neat if some of that had to do with the Beatles come together? Wouldn't that be fun? So there's that, and of course all the planning for the fight song and all that kind of stuff that comes with the music thing. So very excited. Just wanted to put a bug out there about commissioning a piece, which is really neat to premiere a piece by a composer.
Thank you, Director Ewing. Director Matlock.
Thank you, Director Williams. I just want to say good luck to the teachers. My husband told me this is the end of the semester. I know what that looks like at a college. I'm not sure what that looks like, in the K-12, but good luck, if there's taking, exams and grading and things like that. Welcome back to my buddy over here after his knee surgery. Welcome back, Director Cox. And also, as mentioned, MLK Day is coming up. And one of my favorite quotes is, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. And that is by Martin Luther King. The Volunteer Action Center is having a mini Culture Fest, from my understanding, on Monday at 10 a.m. to 11:30 at the Grout Museum, and that's focused on elementary students. So hopefully we can get some people, some of our students out there. It's a day on, not a day off. And I just want to thank Dr. Smith and the administrators for that conversation last week about the cell phone policy. That was pretty interesting. Learned a lot of information there, and I'm looking forward to next steps. And last but certainly not least, I would like to tell my sorority sisters that are educators in Delta Sigma Theta sorority, happy Founders Day. 112 years ago, 22 women at Howard University founded the best sorority ever, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And so I want to tell them all, happy Founders Day. Thank you.
Nice. Nice. Thank you, Director Matlock. Director Cox.
Always have to. First of all, I just want to say thank you for all the things that, I've been gone for a while, and with this new knee surgery. So thank each all you members there for just expressing some gratitude. And trust me, it's still a process. Other than that, I'm glad to be back, to be quite honest. I'm just glad to be back, and let's, looking forward of moving forward. And that, I think that's the big thing. And so back in the schools, kids are kids. I think I think we need to start wearing masks. but for the most part, I think everything is moving in a moving in a positive direction with us. And when my time away, I was able to see it and watch you guys on on YouTube, and it was just kind of neat. It was a different perspective. So just want to mention that.
Glad to have you back. So thank you, Dr. Cox, or Director Cox. Director Cox. Now we're going to the doctor. Director Schmidt.
Just two items, really. One is this whole work-based learning. I think we're considered a leader already in the state, but we certainly can cement our position if we really, I'd hate the word lean into this. We're well positioned, I think. It's just that I think we need to be as flexible as we can and not let simple items such as teacher contracts, those sorts of things stand in the way. We can extend contracts. We can provide these opportunities. It's not just good for kids, as Jesse mentioned, but boy, if we could, again, cement our leadership politically and ultimately financially due to grants that we would be able to solicit, I think this is just a golden opportunity, and we need to really hit it as hard as we can. Again, there's a lot of things that are seemingly roadblocks, but we just need to resolve those one way or another. The second thing is, last meeting, I don't remember the person that donated all the money for the libraries and so forth. And I don't know if you recall, but when asked about what types of books, there were various children's books and so forth, but also said she liked Hoover. I don't know if you remember that or not. And we're in a perfect position to do that. Not only do we have Hoover and Lou Henry schools, and that attached to us, but even though President Hoover's presidency was somewhat difficult due to the Depression, somewhat challenging, I think what people don't realize, and this is why I'm advocating for a lot of Hoover books in all the libraries, that he was considered the humanitarian of the 20th century. the single person that was the humanitarian of 20th century, because he kind of made a fortune in mining, so he had some money, but he used it during World War I to solicit his own and other donations for food, and he had the ability to logistically get them overseas, particularly to the areas of Northern Europe, Belgium, Holland, and so forth. He was the only person that was granted free passage between enemy lines in World War I, because he was the person that brought food to the starving people, and both sides had an interest in that. So he and only he could cross enemy lines. It's really a fantastic story. And I think it would be just great if we had more recognition of that by putting that in our libraries and maybe even our curriculum. That's all I have, other than welcome back, everybody.
Well said. Thank you, Director Schmidt. Just a couple of things. Welcome, JT and Sam. Glad to have you. Sam's been a part of the team already, but welcome into the new role, and look forward to working with you both. Thanks to Pointer and Lou Henry for presenting today and their programs, 2 awesome programs. Got the day started. We've been away for a little while, and it's always good to feel good about some of the things that are happening in our buildings. And then Pam had to dampen it a little bit, talking about retirement. So that's too soon. That's too soon. I'm not sure if is this your last. This isn't your last meeting, is it, Jeff? Nope. So we'll handle that. We'll cross that bridge when it comes. So, but yeah, just glad to be back. Thank you all for all you do for the schools and the community. The countless hours and time you take away from your family. So hope you're all having a good start to the new year. I did have an opportunity to attend the Lego League competition at Hoover on Saturday. I saw Sam. It's hard to miss him. And he had a hat on, so he was another 3 or 4 inches taller. So it's hard to miss him. But it was amazing. I'm a former robotics dad, so my son got into the robotics arena kind of later on. He didn't participate in any Lego League stuff. So we had a conversation after I got home. I took my 3rd grader to see it. He wasn't interested. He wanted to do and be somewhere else, but I wanted him to see if he would be interested in it, because that's all he asked for Christmas was some Legos. So thought that would be a good opportunity. And I actually saw some of the students that came and presented to us from the robotics program were hosting, like commanding the whole space, making sure everything was on point. The students in the groups, the agenda. I mean, they were running the whole show. I know Dick Urban likes to talk a lot, but I didn't hear him say anything. So the students were there. My son's roommate was one of the, I guess it was a referee. He had on an officials referee shirt. So he was one of the referees, the former East High valedictorian from 2023. So I thought that was pretty nice and amazing as well. But I got an opportunity to see some of our students in action. And just if they're in that arena, if they're in that avenue, Janelle talks about music and theater and how the engagement benefits you, the leadership, working together with a group. And I'm an athletic guy, so I talk about sports. But for students that's their thing. It's the same type of enjoyment, the same type of atmosphere I mean, I heard screaming and yelling and go, and everybody was clapping for everybody. It was just amazing, amazing. And then there was a camp or a bottle drive outside, so I don't. I'm glad it was wintertime. There were cars all on the grass. They had teams all the way from Riceville to Ames, from just about everywhere. So I'm sure we represented. We did represent pretty well for the Waterloo schools. And had a few groups in there, but it was just an amazing environment. It brought a lot of positivity and light to the community. So it was good. It was good. So if you have children in elementary schools and the secondary schools as well, think about getting them involved in Lego League and robotics. They could have a lot of fun doing it and be a part of something and be a part of a team. So it was good. And thanks to the volunteers. Thanks to all the volunteers that made that happen and made that go so well.
And if
Yeah,
you're a
Esther,
parent
could I just
interested-
add and a shout out to Erin Sale? She was the master behind all the scenes, and this was a reschedule because if you remember, we had an ice storm,
Yes.
and so she was very nervous about getting all the volunteers together and would we have as big as turnout. And she really did not want to do a virtual Lego League competition, and we just talked about it today in the teaching and learning department how well it went, and it was a success. So I really feel like Erin Sale, thank you for all the behind the scenes to make that happen. So I'm glad you said that. So
Yep.
thank you so much for noting that.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Aaron. Appreciate it. So, January 20th, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, all offices and buildings will be closed. The next time we'll be in this room is January 27th for our next regularly scheduled board meeting. Is there anything that I am missing? If not, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carried. We're adjourned. Man, we lost last night. I'm rooting for the Vikings now. I'm going Packers. Yeah, I'm going for the NFC North. Yeah, heard.
Absolutely.
Yep.
But you get